What is going on, everyone? Anthony here. Here are 5 more essentials that I would love to see presented in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Number 5. The Mercenaries. As a huge fan of the Mercenaries from the original Resident Evil 4, I was really disappointed when they brought the mode back to Resident Evil Village, and it ended up just being Ethan, even though it was called the Mercenaries. It wasn't as memorable or have the same punch for me personally. We couldn't even play as Chris Redfield. I would personally like to see them remove the abilities for this one and keep things old school. Grab all the times and bonus time and rack up them combos just like before. I would love to see all the maps redone, as we already saw one part of the village that we may be playing on. Number 4. Gruesome Deaths. I had to make this essential because on the last part I mentioned them bringing on the horror this time around, and I forgot to mention the deaths. Well, if we toned them down and censored the deaths, it would take away a huge horror element from this game. I always loved the brutal deaths from Resident Evil 4. There were so many different variations of death and all affected Leon differently. They were really stunning for the time and could look even better in the RE engine. So come on, let's bring on the gore and let's not censor them deaths. Number 3. Change up the island. Now some may disagree with me here, but I wouldn't mind if they changed the island entirely. The pacing always gets a little off by this time. And when we get here in the original, that's when we really start to see the action side of things even more. This is when we start getting into the Gatling guns, constant bow guns, and a bunch of rocket launchers. The island is definitely more action heavy, but if they switch things up here, it could be done even better. And maybe they could change the order of how things happen. That would make it more effective and probably help the pacing. This being completely redone would only be a good thing, but I really wouldn't want to see any of the story actually cut out of the game. Number 2. Don't cut content. When it comes to cutting things from Resident Evil 4, I can really only think of cutting and changing stuff on the island, as I mentioned. I think an unnecessary cut, like in Resident Evil 3 Remake for example, with the clock tower, that's a perfect example of what you should not do. The clock tower is my favorite part of the original Resident Evil 3, and it was taken out. Not really sure why to this very day. Salazar's castle being one of my favorite parts, I would hate to see any of that cut, especially for no reason at all. Cut stuff from Resident Evil 4 Remake has been the biggest fear in fans' comments for about 2 years, since Resident Evil 3 Remake was released in 2020, so it definitely had to make the essentials list for sure. I have faith in this team that worked on Resident Evil 2 Remake that they will keep everything in there that is necessary. I understand the idea of cut stuff from Resident Evil 4 is very scary. There's a lot of people that don't even think this game needs to be remade, and they also use that fear of the cut content as reasons why it shouldn't be remade on top of that. I think we have to give it a chance and have to wait to actually play it to see what they take out. And the clock tower for me didn't really seem necessary. If I see a cut in this game that I see necessary, I probably won't be that mad. I'm not saying that it has to be 100% the same, and I don't expect it to be either. I just don't expect a crucial part to be nabbed out of the game, just like the clock tower was with RE3. Number 1. No QTE. Last but not least, you guessed it, no QuickTime events please. I don't want them near this game. I know Resident Evil 3 Remake had little button prompts for the car and Nemesis, but other than that, they weren't around, especially in the recent remakes, or renditions of Resident Evil games. Back in 2005, they were everywhere in gaming. And I think that if they added QuickTime events in here all the time, everywhere, it would just be way too dated. All of the boulder rolls and QuickTime events with bosses can easily be taken out to fit today's new and improved Resident Evil engine. What are some of your essentials for Resident Evil 4 Remake? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe and the bell to stay tuned as the road for Resident Evil 4 Remake continues. A big shout out to everyone that supports me on Patreon and YouTube memberships. YouTube members grants you access to voting on content with custom badges and emojis for chats. Patreon gives you the same voting privilege, but even more. Gain access to uncut recording sessions, weekly exclusive Patreon shows, and live hangouts on Patreon. Tiers start at just $1. Thank you so much for your support, and I will catch you next time.